Government negotiators have come up with a final set of prices for Medicare prescription drugs.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Amazon Business, focused on offering smart business buying solutions, leaving time to focus on growth. More at AmazonBusiness.com. And by The Economist, devoted to providing independent journalism that makes sense of the news shaping the world. More at Economist.com or with The Economist app, newsletters, and podcasts.
I'm David Brancaccio. The government has announced the final prices of its first ever negotiations over prescription drugs in the Medicare program. Merck's diabetes drug, Januvia, will go down 79%. Novo Nordisk insulin down 76%. And it's not just the $6 billion in estimated savings for taxpayers. This drives out-of-pocket costs for medicines for people on Medicare, mainly seniors, down by about $1.5 billion. Marketplace's Henry Epp has more.
Private insurers routinely negotiate with pharmaceutical companies over the cost of prescription drugs, but for years, Medicare wasn't able to do so. That changed under the Inflation Reduction Act, which President Biden signed into law 2 years ago tomorrow. Its first round of negotiations are for drugs that treat blood clots, diabetes, arthritis, cancer, and other common conditions. Medicare spent $46 billion on the medications in 2022, according to the Department of Health and Human Services. The new prices will take effect in 2026, and the program is set to expand in the years ahead. Medicare will be able to negotiate prices for 15 more drugs next year and an additional 20 in later years. The pharmaceutical industry has challenged the law in court, arguing that Medicare's drug negotiation process is unconstitutional, but so far none of the lawsuits have been successful. The IRA also caps annual out-of-pocket spending for Medicare recipients for prescriptions taken at home at $2,000. That part of the law takes effect next year. I'm Henry Epp for Marketplace.
Several published reports this week indicate the Department of Justice is considering plans to push for the breakup of Google. This comes after a court ruled last week Google's search business is an illegal monopoly. A breakup could be one of several ways forward, a government strategy that is uncommon, but with precedent. Here's Marketplace's Stephanie Hughes.
One of Google's rivals, DuckDuckGo, is using this moment to speak out about what it wants to see change. Camille Baz is DuckDuckGo's senior vice president for public affairs. He says it's been hard to compete with Google because it's often the default search engine.
It has led to the market being pretty much frozen.
To thaw that market and make online search more competitive, DuckDuckGo is advocating for a slew of things. That includes asking that Google be prohibited from paying companies to be the default. It says Google also shouldn't be allowed to give preference to its own search engine on Chrome, its browser, or Android, its mobile operating system. Baz says that's where a breakup might be useful.
Potentially spinning off Chrome and Android into separate companies could be ways to do that effectively.
Court-enforced breakups like this are pretty rare, points out Rebecca Ha-Allensworth, a professor of antitrust law at Vanderbilt.
You know, courts don't like to play CEO.
She says a breakup requires a lot of oversight and expertise about how a company works. But there are other options, like requiring a kind of choice screen.
Where we're asked every time we set up a new phone or something, what do we want to be our search engine?
A Justice Department spokesperson said in a statement that it's assessing the next steps and that no decisions have been made yet. Google didn't respond to a request for comment. I'm Stephanie Hughes for Marketplace.
As we're just now, retail sales in America in July were up well above forecasts, up 1%. This will quiet talk of any recession, and it cheered up the stock market, with S&P futures now up 0.8%, NASDAQ futures up 1%, and Dow futures up 0.8%. But it did spook the bond market, and the 10-year interest rate is up to 3.93%. Indeed, Walmart stock is up 8.5% in pre-market trading now after its spring into summer profits came in today higher than expected, and its CFO went on TV saying that consumer behavior is stable and no longer fraying.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks delivers comprehensive cybersecurity protection while automating cyber defense to stop threats so organizations can thrive. Learn more at paloaltonetworks.com. And by Progressive Insurance. Customers can simplify their insurance needs and protect what's important by bundling home and auto. Learn more about bundling at progressive.com.
Let's get more context now on how less than a year after one big processed foods company spun off a snack food division, another big candy company is spinning it in. This is Mars of M&M's fame buying Kellanova, which makes Cheez-Its and Pringles, for $36 billion. Kellanova was part of Kellogg's till last fall. Get it, Kellanova? Marketplace's Daniel Ackerman dives into some pet food, salt, and sugar.
Pop quiz. Who is the largest corporate owner of veterinary clinics in the U.S.? The answer is Mars. Yes, the same Mars that sells you bubblegum and Skittles could be vaccinating your puppy.
In the U.S., they have several thousand clinics.
Eric Lewandowski is a business advisor with Saks. He says Mars runs clinics including VCA, Blue Pearl, and Banfield Pets. It also owns pet food brands, among them Pedigree, Whiskas, and Royal Canin. Mars even owns a software platform, Pet Exec, to help pet groomers and doggy daycares manage operations. The company claims to serve half the world's pets in some fashion or another. Here's Lewandowski again.
Mars wants to be part of every aspect of a pet's life.
Okay, this story has strayed pretty far from Skittles. The point is, this kind of company, one with a bunch of seemingly disparate business lines, is called a conglomerate. And economy-wide, conglomerates aren't exactly in vogue these days, says Jared Harford, a finance professor at the University of Washington.
The market has definitely been pushing companies toward focus.
Harford says a lot of conglomerates have been splitting apart, including GE, Dow Chemical, and Fortune brands, which at one point made everything from golf balls to whiskey. The breakups have generally been good for the prices of those companies' publicly traded stocks. But
Mars Corporation is a privately held company.
Edward Rock is a professor of corporate law at NYU.
They're a huge company, but they're still family owned. As they say on their website, they think in generations.
Rock says Mars doesn't have to please shareholders looking to make a quick buck by splitting a conglomerate into its constituent parts.
They're immune. They're immune to the particular fashions of public capital markets.
And so Rock says Mars is free to diversify, rather than putting all of its candy eggs in one basket. I'm Daniel Ackerman for Marketplace.
And we're from APM, American Public Media.